Hey YouTube, my name is Brandon and I'm the creator of Doink Cards. In this episode of my software startup series, I'm going to be doing a 48-hour hackathon to add 2 new features to my game mode, Doink Cards. These 2 new features are going to break everything that I've built so far, but they're also going to add a ton of value to all of my players. So before we dive into this hackathon, I want to share with you guys a little bit more information on my software startup, Doink Disc Golf, and give you a little bit more information on the 2 new features that I want to add. So Doink Disc Golf is going to be a one-stop shop for all disc golf games. Currently, there are a variety of physical games out on the market that disc golfers can play while they're throwing a round of disc golf, but a lot of these games could be drastically improved if they were made into a digital game. So for example, there are about 3 different disc golf card games that are out right now, and I think these are perfectly ripe for disruption, which is why I created Doink Cards. So Doink Cards is a digital card game that gives players challenge cards that they can use to help themselves out or to make things more difficult on their friends. Most disc golfers end up buying Doink Cards to add in some additional fun to their casual rounds of disc golf, and they also buy it to help level out the playing field in their friend group. What makes Doink Cards so much better than the physical games that are currently out on the market is that we are able to push updates to all of our players over the air for free. So for example, over the past few months, we've gone from 80 cards to almost 110 cards now, and we've pushed all of these updates to all of our players for free. In addition to adding cards, we also can add new game modes to all of our players. So we started off with 5 game modes, and recently we added in Mystery Box, and we also added in Brawl. And once again, we pushed all of these updates to our players for free. This is just a few of the things that we can do. We're also going to add in many new updates, which include 2 of the new updates that we're going to be adding in today. The first feature that we're going to add today is called a single phone mode. Basically what we want to do is allow a group of disc golfers to play Doink Cards from one phone. So instead of every player needing a phone, this will allow everyone to just play off a single phone. This feature is an absolute must for parents who want to play Doink Cards with their kids, and also this helps players such as myself when I want to play with my dad or someone else who's really not phone savvy, or if someone's phone dies. So this feature is an absolute must, and I think it's going to add a lot of value to our players. The second feature that I want to add in during this hackathon is the ability for people to join teams while they're playing Doink Cards. So imagine like Halo or something like that, where you have the red team, green team, blue team. Basically, I want to do the same thing for Doink Cards. I think this feature would be a huge hit. So imagine if you're a couple, you could play against another couple and add a little rivalry while you're playing disc golf. But you could also use this feature with just a bunch of guys to help level the playing field even more and have a ton of fun while you're playing disc golf. So I'm super excited to get started on this hackathon. I think this is going to be a pretty challenging 48 hours just because Doink Cards was made for each player in the group to have a single phone. But now that people are going to be sharing cards across phones, or the entire group's going to be playing off one phone, this is going to be a pretty big technical problem to solve, but I think we'll be able to do it in this time period. And we got some caffeine already in our system, so I'm ready to get started. But before we do, I want to share with you guys some housekeeping and ground rules that I'm going to be doing for this hackathon. So when it comes to this hackathon, there are only 2 rules that I'm posing against myself. The first one is I have 48 hours to complete these 2 new features. And the second rule that I'm posing on myself is that whatever I have made at the end of this 48 hours, I have to deploy to my beta users. I think by imposing these 2 new rules, it's going to keep me focused, and also because I have to deploy whatever's made at the end of these 48 hours, I'm already going to get some feedback from users that are already invested in trying to help make Doink Cards the best game it could be. So let's go ahead and look at our Trello board to see what we're starting off with when it comes to tasks and go from there. So far, I've gone through and added a rough cut of all of the different tasks that I know for a fact I will have to do, but I'm sure as we get deeper into this, we will have many more tasks in this column. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on the first task, which is creating a flowchart of the game. So I just created a super high level overview flow of the game just so I can help visualize where I'm going to need to make changes at and to help you guys better understand what's about to go on. So the first thing that happens is a welcome page where guests will come in and sign into the game. If they've purchased the game, they can host their own lobby. If they haven't purchased the game or they want to play with someone else, they go to the guest screen where they will type in a special access code that will add them into the Doink Cards lobby. It's kind of like Jackbox TV. I don't know if you've ever played Quiplash, but it's basically the same thing. Once the game has been created,
the guest will go to the lobby where they're all waiting for their friends to join, and from there they go to the actual game where they play cards against each other. So it's a pretty simple app when it comes to pages, but when it comes to processes, here's what goes on. When the host adds all their configurations, they can then press create game. That's what creates the lobby. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're a guest, you'll type in a special code. That's the join game functionality. Once everyone is in the lobby and all the players are ready to go, the host will press start game, and this will kick off a bunch of processes, help distribute cards to all the players, and do a bunch of other things to make sure the game's ready to play. Once the game is in full swing, there's a few critical actions that happen over and over and over again. These are draw a card, play a card, and also send out notifications. And just as I'm looking at this from a high level view, we're going to be touching every single one of these core processes. And thankfully, we won't have to add too many new pages. We'll just be tweaking the existing ones. So now that we know what's going on, let's go ahead and head to the next task.
All right, to keep me sane during this entire process and to give a little structure to what I'm about to do, I think I'm going to divide this up into 3 major sections. As you just saw earlier, what I'm going to do is this nice little flow that you guys saw, but I think what I'm going to do is break it up into section 1, 2, and 3. The first section is going to be what I talked about earlier when it comes to hosting the lobby and joining the game. The second phase will actually be starting the game, and that third phase is going to be that little infinite loop that you guys saw of playing the game. So now it's actually time for some coding, and I think that's how I'm going to break up tackling this problem going forward. So let's go ahead and head over to the fun stuff. Hey everyone, checking in, just to let y'all know that things are going pretty smooth so far, knock on wood. We're about 3 hours into this challenge, and so far I've added the front end functionality for the host to determine if they want everyone to play from a single phone or if they would like to play in a team, like I mentioned earlier. So now that we have this set up on the front end, it's time to actually work on the back end. So now we can pass these properties around and actually do stuff with it. So let's go ahead and dive back in to knocking out some more code. Alright, so it's been about 1 hour since I last checked in, and I want to share 2 pro tips with you guys that I'm doing right now that help me a lot when making big changes to my app. So pro tip 1 is when you're making large changes, it is really wise to go ahead and open up a markdown file and ask yourself as many hypothetical questions as you can that will happen when you start making changes to your code base. So for example, what happens if I change this class, this function, if I add some new properties, how will this impact everything else? And answer all these questions. And then pro tip 2 is once you've come up with these answers, go ahead and add to-dos in your code for like, hey, watch out for this, this will break, you're going to need to change these things, you're going to need to add this function, and so forth. So that's what I've been doing for the past hour. So now it's time to go ahead, dive in, and actually start the coding. Alright YouTube, we are entering hour number 8, almost 9 of this 48-hour hackathon that I'm doing for myself. But basically, we just knocked out a ton of good code for the back end. So far, we've completed pretty much almost all of phase 1. The front end works pretty smoothly when it comes to doing the single phone mode or the team mode. And now the back end will allow us to create new lobbies and also join those lobbies. That was a lot of work. I actually ran into some race conditions, so that took a good while to hunt down and figure out what was going wrong. For those of you who don't know, Firestore is the database I'm using, and it's a NoSQL database, so you can easily overwrite things because it's not like a SQL database where all transactions are ACID. In Firestore, you can easily overwrite something if you have a few processes running concurrently. So that's exactly what happened to me, and thankfully I was able to fix them. But now we're going to go ahead and move on to phase 2 of my plan, and we'll go ahead and look what we got. Alright, so like I just mentioned, we just wrapped up phase 1, and I think we're making good speed. This took, like I said, 9 hours to wrap up, and then now we're moving on to phase 2. The good news is phase 1 was the easy part. Now phase 2 is going to be the challenging part. So we have about, like I said, 39 hours left in this. The reason why phase 2 is going to be probably one of the more difficult ones is just because of lobby is going to be interesting to update the front end, just because now we're going to be handling teams, joining teams dynamically, and then also this start game logic is a little bit complicated just because there's so many different things that can happen depending on the game mode and also what needs to be shown. So we'll go ahead and dive on into knocking this out, and I just wanted to let you guys know where we're at on the Trello board. So far we just updated and completed the create lobby functionality and also the join functionality. Both these work smoothly now. We're making good
progress, and this is the lobby code that I was just talking about and this start game functionality. So we're making pretty good progress, but we got to keep going strong. So I'll keep y'all posted, and back to another coding session.
Hey YouTube, it has been about 12 hours on and off, and I'm officially halfway done with, I think, the code that I need to knock out for this hackathon. You know, knock on wood. Hopefully nothing else pops up as I'm working on it tomorrow. But I'm going to go ahead and head to bed tonight so I can wake up super early, get like another cup of Dunkin'. I'm at like cup 4. It's embarrassing how much caffeine I drink. But we'll get some more tomorrow to keep knocking this out and hopefully be able to push this up to all the beta users. I'm super pumped. Heck, if things go right, I'll be able to play some disc golf on Sunday and enjoy the day. But in the meantime, you guys have a great night, and I will see y'all bright and early tomorrow morning. Hey YouTube, I ended up sleeping in way too late. It's about 9:50, it's almost 10 actually, and I was supposed to be up working pretty much 2 hours ago. I'm on dog duty though, so I spent the whole night pretty much watching these two. My sister's out of town, so we're watching her pups. But yeah, so gotta finish up doing that. When they're done eating, we're gonna head to Dunkin', and then it's gonna be coding for pretty much the rest of the day. So stay tuned. All right, YouTube, it's 11 o'clock. It is way later than I expected on starting, but the good news is I'm ready to go. Ended up getting the Dunkin'. Like I said, the pups got fed, and so my doggy sitting duties are pretty much done for the day. But now it's time to get back to knocking out where we left off yesterday, which was we're in phase 2, and all we gotta do is finish up the front end for adding the teams, and then also finish up the back end to handle starting a game in single phone mode and also in team mode. So let's go ahead and dive back in. Alright, we are officially done updating the lobby page. I want to show you my screen so you can see all the cool changes we just added.
Alright, so most of the changes that we just made on the front end for the lobby page involved adding new tables if they're in a team mode, allowing people to swap back and forth between teams, also show messages depending on which game mode they're in, and instead of just going through all these, I want to show you what it looks like. So here's what the new team mode looks like. I have my iPad on the right hand screen and my phone on the left. So now what you can do is join a team, you can hop back and forth, and as you can see, it appears on both phones properly. That was an interesting problem to solve. You'll also see on the bottom now, depending on like what state the game is on, it'll update. So like my iPad is the host, so I can actually press start game, whereas on the other one, it'll just say waiting on host. And you might not saw it, but it'll actually disable the button if not all players are on a team. So yeah, so that was the change for the team mode, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you what it looks like for the single phone mode as well. So this is what the updated single phone mode lobby will look like. As you can see, this little white card now is changed, and it gives you some instructions on how to play in a single phone mode. And then all the players that we just created on the host screen now appear in here. So like I said, and because this is all running off one phone, you instantly can start a game. So now that we're done with this, we're gonna go ahead and head over to our next task.
Hey YouTube, I just got back from another round of dog duty, but I was smart this time and brought my laptop with me. And I was able to actually knock out all of phase 2, which feels so good. But the bad news is we're in a race against time now. It is 10:30 p.m., which means I'm 75% done with this challenge and have about 12 hours left to knock out all of phase 3. So let's go ahead and hop over to my computer to see what we got left in phase 3.
So like I just mentioned, we are officially in phase 3, which is the final one. So close to the end. But the bad news is this is probably going to be the hardest phase to complete just because of this core loop right here. The game container actually controls most of the logic when it comes to like sending out notifications to player when a card's played against them, drawing cards, showing specific cards for players, and a bunch of other things that are pretty unique in each game mode. So I think it's going to be a pretty fun challenge to knock out, adding in the single phone mode and the team mode. But hey, we got a lot of work left in front of us, so let's get to it. 12 hours, the clock is ticking. So this is what the new single phone mode looks like. You'll notice here on the bottom right hand corner where it says players, that's new. So when you click on it, what you'll be able to do is see all the players. And so just for example purposes, we'll swap over to Nate. And what you'll notice is that my cards changed. If I play this card back on myself, play the card, we ran out of cards here. But if we go back to Brandon, what you'll notice is that, oh, look, it looks like Nate played a card on us. So yeah, so that took a good while to fix, and it is currently almost 1 o'clock, so that took about 2.5 hours of work. So let's head over to the Trello board to see what we got left, and hopefully we can knock this out before too late. Alright guys, this is what progress looks like. We are slowly growing this done column. A few hours ago, this was about half the size, so we are cruising. I'm pretty happy with the progress we're making. All we have left is the task for team mode, some validation, and emailing our beta users to let them know what's going on. But all we have left is making sure team mode works in the game, and we are done. So let's get back to coding and hopefully knock this out.
Good morning, YouTube. It is currently 9 o'clock, which means I have 2 hours left in this hackathon, so it's down to the final crunch time. I ended up staying up a little later last night to knock out some of the final team mode stuff and basically flush out what I need to do, so now it's just coding it. So hopefully we can knock it out in time. The clock's ticking, but we got this. Alright, we are officially done with the hackathon. It is 11:02. Little slow getting it done, but so far we knocked out the team mode, the single phone mode, and we also sent out an email to all the beta users. So let me go ahead and show you what the final product looks like. I'm so excited that this is done.
Alright, so I want to show you all the final product after all of our hard work. So now when a host creates a new lobby, they have to go through the normal process. So we'll just do, hey, YouTube. I wish I could spell, and we'll also do Brandon. And we will enable single phone mode, or we can enable team modes. These are two new features that we just wrapped up. Just for demo purposes, I want to show you all the single phone mode. So when I add a player, I can now play with Brody. Oops. Or Paul. Oh. And we can play helping hand. So now all of our hard work is being put to use. Now when the lobby creates up, you'll see that we have Brody and Paul all playing from the single phone. So I'm going to go ahead and start it. Dismiss. So now I can play a card against Brody from my phone, and then whenever I pass the phone over to Brody, he'll get the alert, oh look, something happened. So I really hope this is going to help out a lot of those players that want to play with their kids or play with their parents, or really just anyone who wants to just play from a single phone. And same thing for the team mode. They would have just clicked the team mode, added their teams, and selected who they wanted to play against. So yeah, this is the product. It's wrapped up, it's deployed, and I'm excited to start getting some feedback from all of our users.
If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you've enjoyed this content of seeing how new features were added into this startup. I plan to keep doing more videos just like this as I add more and more features to Doink Cards, so if you have any more suggestions on how I can make these videos better, or if you have suggestions for new features to add to Doink Cards, please add it to the comments below. I make sure to read and respond to all of them. Also, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below so you'll be notified the next time I release a new video. If you did like this content, I actually do have a few other videos on this channel which I did a little while back, and don't judge me, these videos did need a lot of work and I was experimenting with making videos, coding, and YouTube all at once. So please don't judge, but the content is there for you. So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching this, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.